My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something that keeps me awake at night. When I see our African leaders clinging to power like it's their personal property, when I watch them silence the youth who dare to dream of a better tomorrow, I remember why we took up arms in Burkina Faso. This is not just Uganda's story, this is Africa's story. And today I must speak the truth that many are afraid to say out loud. My brothers and sisters, there comes a moment in every nation's life when silence becomes complicity, when respect for elders transforms into acceptance of oppression. We have reached that moment across our beloved continent. And if we don't speak now, if we don't act now, we will watch another generation of African youth lose hope in their own homeland. Let me be very clear about something. When I see what is happening in Uganda right now, when I watch how Museveni treats his own people, especially the young ones who are crying for change, it reminds me of everything we fought against. You see, Museveni came to power as a revolutionary. Yes, he came as someone who wanted to liberate his people. He came with promises of transformation and African dignity. But somewhere along that journey, something terrible happened. The liberator became the oppressor. The revolutionary became the dictator. The hope became the problem. And this is what I want every African leader to hear today. Your liberation credentials, your past sacrifices, your history of fighting colonialism, none of these things give you permanent ownership of your country. None of these things mean you can ignore the voices of millions of young people who were not even born when you were fighting in the bush. Africa belongs to the living, not to the ghosts of past victories. Bobi Wine, this young man from the streets of Kampala, he represents something powerful. He represents something that terrifies every aging dictator on this continent. He is not from the military. He is not from the elite families. He is not from the political dynasties. He came from the people, from the ghettos, from the struggles of ordinary Ugandans. And that is exactly why the system fears him. Because when power comes from the people, it cannot be controlled by the old tactics of intimidation and violence. I want you to understand what Bobi Wine really represents. He is not just one man challenging one president. No, my brothers and sisters. He is the voice of every young African who has been told to wait their turn. He is the face of every graduate without a job. He is the hope of every mother who watches her children suffer under corrupt leadership. He is the anger of every father who cannot feed his family despite working every day. Bobi Wine transformed youth frustration into a language that power could not ignore, and that is his greatest crime in the eyes of the old guard. Now let me tell you about age and time, because this is something these old men refuse to accept. Museveni thinks he can outlast the youth. He thinks if he just holds on long enough, if he just suppresses enough voices, if he just arrests enough activists, the problem will go away. But here is the truth that nature itself teaches us. The youth always win in the end. Always. Not because they are smarter or stronger, but simply because they have time on their side. You can arrest Bobi Wine today. You can beat him tomorrow. You can jail him next week. But behind him stands an entire generation. Behind him stands millions of young Ugandans who are tired of promises, tired of corruption, tired of watching their country's wealth stolen by a few old men and their families. You cannot arrest an entire generation. You cannot jail a movement. You cannot kill an idea whose time has come. And this is my warning to every African leader who is listening. Every leader who has overstayed their welcome. Every president who has changed the constitution to cling to power. Every dictator who thinks the army will protect them forever. Your time is running out. Not because I say so. Not because the West says so. But because history itself says so. Because your own people say so. Because nature says so. Look at what is happening across our continent right now. In Kenya, the youth are rising. In Nigeria, young people are organizing. In Sudan, they overthrew a dictator. In my own Burkina Faso, we said enough is enough to the puppets who were selling our sovereignty. This is not coincidence, my brothers and sisters. This is a continental awakening. This is African youth realizing that they do not need permission to demand their future. The mistake that Museveni and many leaders like him make is thinking that Western criticism is their biggest threat. They prepare responses for human rights organizations. They manage sanctions. They negotiate with international bodies. But they completely miss the real danger, the anger of their own children. Because Western pressure can be managed. Yes, statements from Europe and America can be ignored. But when your own people, especially the youth, when they turn against you, when they lose all fear, when they decide that they have nothing left to lose, that is when empires fall. Let me talk about this fear factor. because it is very important. And Museveni has ruled Uganda for decades, using a very simple strategy: make people afraid, afraid of arrest, afraid of torture, afraid of losing their jobs, afraid of being labeled terrorists or rebels. He militarized everything. He turned the army into his personal protection force. He made sure promotions depend on political loyalty rather than professional competence. He weaponized security forces against his own citizens. But here is what these leaders don't understand about the current generation of African youth. These young people grew up in a different world. They didn't fight in liberation wars. They don't have emotional attachment to the old slogans and the old parties. They don't remember colonialism. What they remember is unemployment. What they remember is corruption. What they remember is being told to be patient while their leaders build mansions and send their children to expensive schools in Europe. So when you threaten this generation with arrest, with beatings, with prison, they ask a very simple question that destroys your power. What exactly are we losing? What future are you threatening to take away from us when we already have no future? What stability are you protecting when we live in poverty? What peace are you defending when we have no dignity? This is when fear collapses, my brothers and sisters. This is when the old tactics stop working. This is when power realizes that it has nothing left except violence, and violence without legitimacy is just terrorism by the state against its own people. Uganda's population today is overwhelmingly young. These are people who were born under Museveni's rule. They know no other president. They have spent their entire lives watching the same old man make the same old promises while nothing changes. They watch their resources being stolen. They watch their elections being rigged. They watch their voices being silenced. And then they are told to be grateful, to be patient, to respect their elders. But stability without dignity is violence. Let me repeat this, because it is crucial. Stability without dignity is violence. When you tell people to accept oppression in the name of peace, that is violence. When you tell them to be quiet about injustice in the name of stability, that is violence. When you tell them to watch their future being stolen in the name of respecting elders, that is violence. Now, I want to address something that many people misunderstand. When we speak truth to power, when we challenge these aging dictators, some people say we are being disrespectful. They say we are being rude to our elders. They say African culture demands that we remain silent. But let me tell you something very clearly. There is nothing in African culture that says we must accept tyranny. There is nothing in our traditions that says leaders can steal and oppress without accountability. Respect is earned, not demanded. And when a leader stops serving the people and starts serving himself, he loses the right to demand respect. What I am saying is not radical. What I am saying is not extremism. This is simple truth. This is political reality. This is what presidents' own children whisper at home. This is what taxi drivers say when cameras are off. This is what students discuss in their hostels. This is what musicians express in their metaphors. This is what the youth say online every single day. I am just saying it without fear, without apology, without asking permission from anyone. And this is what makes it dangerous to power. Not because I have weapons, not because I have armies, not because I have money, but because I am saying out loud what millions are thinking in silence. I am giving voice to the voiceless. I am speaking for those who have been told to shut up and wait their turn. Museveni never directly responded to these warnings. He dismissed them. He ignored them. He downplayed them. You know why?
Lovely viewers, welcome to AMF4 TV. My name is Richard Che. I hope you are fine. Okay, we are talking about how African leaders has to be united by this an influential leader, Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traore. There is a video on social media, especially on our handles, that we have to share it to you for you people to comment on it, on how statements he has been making all these days. We'll keep on updating you on this issue, but don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more of this video as well as similar videos like this. Let's listen to whatever he said and on social media to see, and then also don't forget to comment when you watch this video. Kindly also not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Because responding would mean admitting that the youth anger is real. Responding would mean accepting that power is temporary. Responding would mean acknowledging that the clock is ticking. So silence became his strategy. But silence doesn't stop time, my brothers and sisters. Silence doesn't stop change. Silence only delays the inevitable. Every empire ignores the youth until the youth end it. Look at history. Look at Rome. Look at France. Look at Russia. Look at every great power that fell. They all made the same mistake. They thought the youth would remain powerless forever. They thought they could suppress and control indefinitely. They were all wrong. The system responded to Bobi Wine and the Ugandan youth the only way it knew how. Violence, intimidation, arrests, internet shutdowns, beatings, torture. Every single response proved one thing. The warnings were accurate. The system is afraid. Power is panicking. The emperor has no clothes. And everyone can see it now. And here is what African leaders must understand. When you reach the point where you can only rule through fear and violence, when you can only maintain power through rigging elections and crushing dissent, when your own people celebrate rumors of your illness or death, you have already lost. You might still sit in the palace. You might still command the army. But you have lost legitimacy. You have lost moral authority. You have lost the future. Liberation without transition becomes occupation. Let me say this again because it is so important. Liberation without transition becomes occupation. When the liberators refuse to step aside, when they cling to power decade after decade, when they block all peaceful paths to change, they transform from freedom fighters into occupiers. They become the very thing they once fought against. This is not personal attack on Museveni alone. This is about a pattern we see across Africa. Long rule justified by past sacrifice. Power defended through fear rather than performance. Youth treated as threats rather than assets. Stability used as excuse for repression. Control of security forces used to suppress rather than protect. Fragmentation of opposition through division and manipulation. Weaponization of everything. The courts, the police, the army, even the constitution itself. These are not leadership skills, my brothers and sisters. These are maintenance tactics. There is a big difference. Leaders build institutions that outlast them. Leaders prepare their successors. Leaders create systems that work without them. But maintainers just protect their throne. They personalize the state. They make everything about themselves. And when power becomes personalized like this, peaceful exit becomes nearly impossible. This is the dangerous territory we are in now. When a leader believes he is the country, then criticism becomes treason. Opposition becomes the enemy. Activists become terrorists. Youth become rebels. And the nation becomes a prison where only one voice is allowed, the voice of the leader himself. I want to speak directly to the youth of Uganda now. Bobi Wine is your voice. Yes, but he is just one man. The real power is in your numbers. The real strength is in your unity. The real weapon is your refusal to accept what your parents accepted. You were not born to be slaves in your own country. You were not born to watch others eat while you starve. You were not born to be patient with injustice. Your time does not come by waiting. Your time comes by demanding it. Your time comes by organizing. Your time comes by refusing to be silent. Your time comes by showing up. By voting even when they try to rig it. By protesting even when they try to beat you. By speaking even when they try to silence you. And to my fellow African leaders, I say this with all seriousness. Step aside with dignity, or be removed without it. History will remember you, either as statesmen who knew when to pass the torch, or as obstacles who had to be pushed aside. The choice is yours, but the outcome is certain. The youth will win. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will win, because nature itself is on their side. Africa does not hate its elders. We respect our liberation heroes. We honor their sacrifices. We acknowledge what they did for our independence. But Africa refuses to die with them in power. We refuse to sacrifice our children's future for nostalgia about past glories. We refuse to accept that because you fought colonialism 40 years ago, you get to rule forever. The final truth is this. Every leader's time comes to an end. You can leave as a hero or leave as a villain. You can transition peacefully or be forced out violently. You can build a legacy or destroy it. But you will leave. Because mortality is the one opponent that no president, no general, no dictator has ever defeated. Uganda is just one example. But this message is for the entire continent. For every president who has overstayed. For every leader who has become comfortable with power. For every dictator